Good afternoon and welcome to Journeys with Jack. I'm glad you're here. Today I'd like to talk about Copenhagen and how to hit the highlights in one day. Please bear with me for any mispronunciation as Danish is not a first language. I had the occasion to go to Copenhagen recently when traveling between the Faroe Islands and Latvia. Copenhagen is a lovely city. I arrived in the evening and I would like to tell you how we put it all together. So my friends and I purchased at the airport a city pass. It's called actually a city pass small, which gives you unlimited access to the metro and the bus lines in the city center. This is very practical. Next, we got on the metro M2 line at the airport. The airport stop is called Lufthaven, and we went one stop to Kastrup. That is because we had booked ourselves into the Best Western Motel in Kastrup. It's about a 3-block walk from the train station. Now let me talk to you about the economy of the city pass. For 90 Danish krone, we got unlimited travel for one day. Now 1 Danish krone is 1/7 of a dollar, so 7 Danish krones to 1 US dollar. This was about 13 bucks for riding the subway around all day, and we put it to good use. Now, at the Best Western, what I was able to do the night before was speak to the hotel front desk, get a copy of a map of the metro, and discuss with them about where the various sites of interest were located. As I found out quickly, there was a couple of outliers, and I had to punt those from the itinerary. I'll come back to that subsequently. So then, after bed, slept good, woke up the next morning and had a great breakfast that was included with the price of the room at the Best Western. This was sausage, eggs, bacon, bread, tea, coffee, fruit, etc. Being fueled up, my friends and I took a 3-block walk to the train station. We got on and figured out which way to go, left or right, basically east or west, thanks to the help of a kindly Danish woman. Fortunately, most people in Copenhagen speak at least some English. We rode down to what I considered to be sort of the crossroads of the metro. This was the Congress Nytorv station, where you change from the M2 line to the M4 line to reach Mammerkirken, our first destination. Mammerkirken translates to Marble Church. This was a beautiful old church built by the Emperor Frederick III. I might have made him more than he is, but I think he's an emperor. Anyhow, he built this lovely church made from marble, as the name suggests, with a great dome, probably made of copper, I deduced, as it was green on the top. Surrounding the church on the outside are various and sundry different statues. I was amazed at how they encompassed it in a circular fashion with prominent Danish philosophers and theologians. For me, the most interesting was to see the statue of Søren Kierkegaard, who brought us the philosophy of existentialism. It is amazing to think what the man did in the short time he had on earth. He died before he reached 50. Inside the church, the acoustics are brilliant, as one might expect with the high dome. But the artwork is equally sublime. As you look around the walls, it's just really breathtaking. There is carving, there is painting, there is filigree. It's unbelievable. Subsequent to the church, I walked over to the Amalienborg Palace, about a 200-yard walk, up the flagstones into the center of the palace compound, where the statue of Frederick III sits astride a giant horse. I spoke with a local policeman and asked him how to best view the changing of the guard, which occurs each day around noon. He told me which direction to look, which was roughly south through a stone gate with arches. In a little while, I could see the troop of soldiers in the band marching up the street from their barracks. I had a few minutes, so I looked around behind me for the vantage point of the various buildings. This is where the royal family stays when they're in Copenhagen, and their stay in each building is denoted by a pennant atop a flagpole. If there's a pennant there flapping in the breeze, the royal family's in residence. If not, they are not. Turning back and looking at the oncoming troop, the band had struck up and began to play. The music was brilliant very martial, very beautiful, very uplifting, and the entire troop was dressed in these giant bearskin hats which made them look 2 feet taller. They came towards me, great vantage point, and then walked around the right-hand side of the monument and then around to the back and stopped in front of one of the buildings. I turned around and watched the changing of the guard at that place, and then the band started up again and came round the other side of the monument and headed back through the stone gate. Subsequent to watching the great changing of the guard, which was a spectacle full of pomp and circumstance, our little group walked back down to the tube station. I guess I'm using the English slang now. I probably should say metro, but nonetheless, you know what I mean. We went back to the metro, got on it, and rode 2 stops up to the Raadhusplatz, which is the plaza around the Raadhuis. The Raadhuis roughly translates into the city hall. At the Raadhuis, there is display from all of the different provinces of Denmark proper, with inscriptions on the wall speaking about the famous people that hail from that province, whatever major events occurred in the province, such as battles, discoveries, etc., as well as the natural resources found there. Over on the opposite wall is a collection of 3 flags denoting Greenland, the Faroe Islands, and Denmark. These 3 countries make up the Kingdom of Denmark. Scattered throughout the Raadhusplatz are various statues sculpted by the eminent Danish sculptor Bertel Thorvaldsen. These include his version of David. One of the most amazing things to me, however, was the intricate inlaid tile. I was just really struck by the artisan craftsmanship that was done, showing various fish, birds, mammals, etc., all indigenous to Denmark, through various different alleyways of this building. Another fascinating aspect was the matrimony room. There's a very special hallway leading to a staircase up to a room where weddings are held inside the Raadhuis. Leaving the Raadhuis, we marveled at how economical we'd been. For those of you who are budget tourists, perhaps like me, the Raadhuis, the Memmerkirken, and the changing of the guard at Amalienborg Palace are all free gratis. Not so with our next site, which was the National Museum. We reached it from getting back on the metro at Raadhusplatz and going 1 stop further to Gammelstrand. If you prefer to walk, it's about an 8 to 10 block walk, and we actually did that on the way back. Anyway, to get into the National Museum, it's a $20 US charge. It's well worth it because the sights that you see are amazing. I'm going to have to consult my notes perhaps for the spelling and pronunciation of 2 of the most famous objects. First, the Trindholm Sun Chariot. This dates back to the Bronze Age when Nordic tribes worshipped the sun, and it was thought at that time that somehow the sun was pulled across the sky by a giant horse with a wagon or a chariot. Consequently, this object of reverence was carved, or maybe I should say fashioned, with a gold disc representing the sun sitting on a metal frame representing some type of wagon or chariot with wheels made of bronze and a giant bronze horse in the front. It's really something to behold. Next, I saw the Gundenstrop Cauldron. The Gundenstrop Cauldron is enormous. I mean enormous. I mean real big, like as big as one of the old-timey wash tubs you'd see in the Wild West movies. This thing was found in a bog up in Jutland. I guess it was found maybe in the 1800s, but it dates back to maybe 900 AD. It was thought that it was a gift to a chieftain of one of the Nordic tribes way back when, and it was stored in the bog or maybe buried near the man at the time of his demise. Apparently, bogs contain peat, which helped to preserve objects over time. Well, it was cleaned up and put in the museum, and it's fabulous to see. It has all kinds of carvings and filigree throughout the silver. It's spectacular. Now, the next thing that really piqued my interest at the museum was the runestone collection. Now, this is a collection of stones that are gigantic. They have carvings on them denoting the great deeds of a Viking warrior, his family lineage, his battles fought, his great victories, his great accomplishments in life. And this is maybe analogous to Egyptian hieroglyphics in that it's carved directly on the surface of the rock. Some of these are quite tall. I'm over 6 feet tall, and many towered over me. Now, after viewing the runestones, I went and saw the remnants of a Viking longship, saw many different weapons, and lots of artifacts made of gold and silver. Finishing up at the museum, I recognized that we need to get a move on if we were going to make it to our last destination, the Rosenborg Slot. Slot is the Danish word for castle. Rosenborg Slot was the residence of numerous different monarchs over the years. We had to get back on the subway, and as I mentioned, we walked down to the Radhuspladsen and entered the subway and rode again to that great crossroads, the Congress Nytorv, and then took the train M2 up to the Norraport station. From the Norraport station, we walked about 3 blocks to Rosenborg Castle. As we reached Rosenborg Castle and paid our admission fee to an interesting young lady who was there from Australia working, we went inside and immediately walked up to the entrance where they gave me this most useful guide in English for a self-guided tour. That suited us very well as we were limited on time. So, here goes with a self-guided tour. I elected to do the most mundane things first, which is walk around the living quarters of the various monarchs, including Christian IV, and look at his old writing desk, but I was rewarded with a very fascinating view of some earrings made from shrapnel with which he was wounded in one of his many wars with the country of Sweden next door. After looking at that, I went upstairs to the throne room, and I was not disappointed. I saw a magnificent throne with gold and silver inlay. But the most amazing thing were these 3 huge statues of lions, about 150 pounds each. I'm not joking, these things were as big as an Irish setter, bigger perhaps, and they surrounded the throne. Now it made perfect sense since the lions are present on the shield of Denmark, the official crest, as part of the heraldry of the kingdom, 3 lions being the symbol. After seeing this magnificent sight, I went and viewed the porcelain collection. Back in the 1600s, it was very difficult to get porcelain. In fact, it had to be imported all the way from the Orient in a laborious process, and obviously a lot of the plates and other items were broken. It was not until much later that the process of making porcelain was discovered and amplified in Europe with the companies like Royal Doulton and Wedgwood in England. After the porcelain, I went down to the pièce de la résistance, the opulent crown jewels down in the basement. And they were everything that they were cracked up to be. It was amazing. There were emeralds, diamonds, rubies, gold, silver, inlaid crowns, scepters, unbelievable. I was just fascinated. One great thing about it is that you could walk up a little step ladder and look down from above at the top of the crown just to see like its circumference and what was decorated on the inside. Both the inside and outside of the crown were very, very finely decorated with filigree, raised relief, etc. Next to the crown jewels was the armory. It was quite interesting too, with weaponry dating back to the Middle Ages, most of which was very fancy as it was owned or used by the royalty. One thing that particularly aroused my interest was a set of Colt pistols sent from the United States by President Abraham Lincoln. In the Colt pistols, they had a powder horn similar to this one that I acquired a few years ago in Romania that had a relief eagle on it and the words E pluribus unum, the motto of the United States. So, subsequently, we were about at closing time, but we were able to scurry into the gift shop for some last-minute shopping, and then exiting the castle proper, we went to the right and came through the gardens. Now, there is a great group of gardens surrounding the castle, but unfortunately, if you come directly out the door, the bridge over the moat is closed. So you have to go back out through the main entrance or the gift shop, turn the corner, and then come in through a side gate, which we did effectively, and walked through the gorgeous gardens down to a street which eventually connected us with a Mammerkirchen tube station. And believe it or not, we rode back to that great terminus, Congress Nytorv, and then got onto the M2 and rode back to the hotel. Reaching the hotel, had a great dinner next door at the Turkish Kebab restaurant, collected our luggage, and got on the train down to the Lufthaven station, and then made it through the airport to board our Air Baltic flight to Riga, Latvia. Let me back up and give a couple of other commentary about efficiency. Fortunately, right around the Mammerkirchen and the Amalienborg Palace are numerous souvenir shops. Very easy shopping to bring home something for your friends. Right around the Radhuspladsen is the Hard Rock Cafe of Copenhagen for people that like to go to that franchise, and there are also numerous souvenir shops in that area. Along the way, you can eat on the street or at a quick eatery inside if it is due to inclement weather. Now watch out as you're walking for the bicycles. There are hordes of them around Denmark. In fact, there are bicycle lanes, so you need to be quite careful. Don't just stand there and get whacked by a bicycle. That could ruin your entire day. But the little hot dog eateries that are set up all over the place are delicious. The hot dogs are of all shapes and sizes and with various and sundry different condiments you can add. They go very well with one of the delicious lagers brewed locally there in Copenhagen, Carlsberg or Tuborg. Many people are seen walking down the street, sipping a beer, eating some street food. Unfortunately, I did not make it to New Haven, spelled Nyhavn, which has numerous different pastel-colored houses, including the one that belonged to the famous Hans Christian Andersen storyteller. Also in New Haven is the gasoline grill, home of purportedly the world's best hamburger. Now, I'm an American, so I don't know for sure if I'm going to give them that accolade, but we can argue that at a different time. There are also many different other great cafes in that area. Finally, I did not get a chance to see the Little Mermaid, which is nearby New Haven. I would also have liked to have gone to the Carlsberg Brewery, and hey, I even forgot to eat a Danish. But these give me some reasons to go back to Denmark. I hope that you have enjoyed this little presentation. I would like to direct you to our website and Instagram so that you can see some photographs, including a map of the metro and an example of the City Pass ticket. Thank you very much, and please tune in again to Journeys with Jack.